Not too long ago, there was a bunker that reigned supreme. Never having to be sealed, this bunker left players with a feeling of security that was unparalleled. With this bunker, you could leave your doors open or simply wait for an enemy to start raiding. And as soon as they went too far, their path was sealed, the raid was over, and we just added 15 rockets to the raid cost if they decide to continue. But the devs, they didn't like this. It was too strong, so they patched it. It was removed from the game. Until today. With some new mechanics, we're bringing back the strongest and most overpowered roof bunker in Rust. Alright, so to get this started, the first thing you're going to want to do is find an area that's somewhat level in order to build. Wait, did my server just crash? Of course, it's always at the worst time. Luckily, with today's sponsor, that's a thing of the past. Thanks to Pine Hosting, we can set up a server super easily and at an incredibly low cost. With its simple instant setup, I can have a server ready to go in just a few minutes. Not only that, but thanks to code REX, that's 30% off, bringing the cost under $10. With Pine, I can choose from tons of different server locations so that I can make sure I get the lowest ping possible. And with the amazing one-click plugin installer, I can download anything I might need to customize my server super easily. And since Pine uses a unique AI system to detect any problems, I should have a much more stable server. If you've ever wanted to start your own server to play with friends or create a new community, Pine Hosting has you covered. Just don't forget to use my link down below as well as code REX at checkout so that you can save money while supporting the channel. Without any further delay, let's jump into the build for this base. Now, there are a few things that you do want to make sure you pay attention to, especially when it comes to honeycombing the base later on. So make sure you stick around from beginning to end of the video so you don't miss any of those important parts. Now, jumping into getting actually started with your base, we're going to start with a temporary low foundation, and then we're going to place 2 raised foundations. Additionally, you want to make sure that you're going to have room for this raised foundation across here. Once that's done, we can go ahead and upgrade these and surround in our 2x1. This is going to function as our starter and eventually the core to our base. In this back corner here, we're going to slap our TC. And then I do recommend also going ahead and adding a shelf. Now what we've built out there is just temporary. And that's going to allow us to place a triangle shelf like so. Then you can go ahead and destroy these. That's just going to give us a little bit more storage room with regards to our boxes. Placing 1 box in this corner like so. If placed tight against the wall, you should be able to place that. This one up here I do find is a lot easier with a cursor on your screen, and you're going to want to let go of the shift key, just allowing you to place that right there with enough room for that. Then of course we can slap a door on, throw our resources in our TC, and get farming. This isn't meant to last for too long, but it does function as a rather nice starter base. Of course, all good things must come to an end, and we have to start expanding. The reason you want to secure that starter base is because this next part gets a little difficult, and you don't want to risk too much while doing it. From here, we're going to place this raised triangle and this square on the ground. Both of these are temporary. This square you can actually go ahead and upgrade. From here, we're going to place a low triangle on the side here and build out 10 more. On the 10th triangle, we're going to place a square. Now, I would personally complete this entire section before moving on, but in order to give you guys a nice aerial layout, I'm going to show you what we'll be doing from this triangle. And that's going to be, we're going to place a second triangle like so, a square, and then another triangle on the side. Now, these heights don't matter too much as long as in the end you build back to a raised triangle. And from this triangle on the side, we're going to do the same as we did over there, building out 11. On the 11th triangle, we're going to place a square. And then for both of these paths, we can go ahead and destroy all of the extra stuff we've built. In this case, this is going to include building or cutting back all the way to this square. And the same thing here, except we're also going to destroy the square initially placed. Then from this final square, we're going to build back to the base. And when you get to this final spot, don't just slap that in there because you might accidentally stick to the wrong piece. So instead, we're gonna come to this corner, back up a little bit, and on the right side, slowly move it over. And as soon as it snaps, we place that and we can upgrade it. From here, while standing on this newly placed piece, we can surround that with half walls. And then we're gonna come over to this one. We're gonna do the exact same thing, building all the way back. And you'll notice that you've run out of space, so we are gonna place our 2 triangles again. And then just again, you wanna make sure that we place that raised triangle, slowly bring it over, and place it as soon as it'll snap. From here, while standing on this one, you wanna place your full walls. And place that. We can then, of course, destroy these as well. From here, I recommend placing a floor triangle and then closing off this. And you can actually put a doorway right here as well. Next, from this square, place a low triangle in front of you here and upgrade that. And we're gonna surround that with half walls. Now this half wall on the right is optional and will mean that if you do a half wall, you have to do a low triangle here. So alternatively, you could do a raised triangle like that, and it's about the same security since all that's gonna be in here is a furnace room later. Next, we're going to come inside the base because we wanna make sure that we made our bunker correctly. We're gonna first place a roof piece across from us and upgrade it. Boom, we're locked in. Now, if you're really not sure you've done this correctly, I would not upgrade it yet, but I know how to do this base, and honestly, the steps are fairly simple to follow. Next, while standing on this triangle, we're gonna place a twig frame here, and do not ever upgrade this frame. This frame is how we open and close the bunker. And then we're gonna grab a roof triangle. Take your roof triangle and you'll see that it does in fact snap there. When it snaps there, we're gonna place that and upgrade it. Boom, we have opened the bunker. Now this is the part where a lot of you are gonna be like, okay, I figured it out. I know how to build the bunker, I know how to do the base, we're done. I don't need to pay attention. I assure you, you do not want to miss the rest of the video because we are going to be covering honeycombing. And when you're honeycombing this base, you can absolutely break the bunker. Before we get to that, we do need to take care of our boxes. Now, unfortunately, because we have a raised foundation here and a raised foundation here, getting your standard 4 box placement is difficult, if not actually impossible. It just does not want to place. So for that reason, I do recommend instead to just give up with it and operate on the 2 large boxes and filling all of the other space with small boxes. You're gonna run into the same problem over here, except I would do your 2 large boxes actually right next to each other, just because it does make things a lot easier to get in small boxes, as well as actually loot everything very easily. Now, there are so many different ways to organize your deployables in here, and it really comes down to personal preference. But one thing I will point out is you 100% want to make sure that you have a bag inside the bunker. You'll want to have that before you even attempt to fiddle with the roof pieces, because if you accidentally lock yourself out, there's no getting back in. Aside from that, opening and closing the bunker is incredibly easy. So easy, in fact, that we can actually leave it open all the time. And to do that, all you're gonna need is a shotgun trap. You see, with a shotgun trap, we can actually set this bunker to automatically close anytime an enemy tries to walk in. To do that, we're gonna place a shotgun trap right there, kind of pointed up at our toesies. And you wanna make sure that you can, of course, still place your frame. From this point, we can just open our bunker again and never worry about closing it ever again. That's for a couple reasons. One of those reasons being that with a garage door here, if someone were actually trying to blow up that garage door, it would collaterally break this twig piece, which of course would seal the bunker. But not only that, If you actually left your door open, because a lot of us accidentally do sometimes make this mistake, you can actually do so without a concern in the world. And to demonstrate this, I'm going to clear myself from the authorized, come back outside, and attempt to walk in my bunker. As you can see, the shotgun trap did not like seeing my toesies and immediately closed the bunker. This means anybody who tried to raid through is now actually stuck inside. And due to the fact that we have another door right here, for them to actually try to blow any further would actually kill themselves in the process. This is very handy to stop someone from actually raiding your base, and honestly is one of my favorite bunker mechanics. That said, we're not done yet. Obviously, we haven't taken care of the front part of this base yet, and this is probably one of my favorite spots too. Coming off here, we're actually going to be honeycombing and expanding the base roughly at the same time, but let's take care of the main honeycomb first. In the backside, it's all pretty normal. You're going to do low foundations and raised foundations where applicable, and basically run around the entire base. It's in the front and on this side where things get a little tricky. First, we're going to place a raised foundation on this side. That one can get upgraded. But then, we're going to place a temporary foundation right here. Now, the reason it's only temporary is you can't actually occupy both sockets. The game doesn't like some of the mechanics that we've used, and it doesn't want you to place them close together. So instead, we place a temporary one, which allows us to place a not so temporary one, upgrade it, and cover this in completely. In this way, we do end up with a gap here. It's not a big deal, but that is why we need this extra foundation jutting out. At the same time, you can choose to place a raised foundation here nice and early, and that's going to allow us to fill in this spot. From here, we are able to just absolutely go around and close this off and fill in any spots in between. And then from your roof, you should be looking at something like this. Of course, you're going to want to fill in all of your honeycomb on this side as well. And then we can deal with the front. Now, this gap right here isn't something you have to worry about too much, especially once you add your ceiling pieces, because it covers in like anything else. Now, with that honeycombing complete, obviously you could make it symmetrical and do the exact same thing on this side just to confuse the raiders, and I do personally like to do that. But next, we're going to take care of the front section here. Now, you aren't limited to having to do this later, so you could have easily added yourself some nice doors right here and closed that off. Of course, unfortunately, due to the nature of the bunker, you are not able to place a door right in front of the bunker system. That is something to consider, and instead I would use just these two doors early. Next, we're going to come over here, which is my favorite addition to this base. We're going to place a temporary square down here, a couple raised triangles, and then destroy that square. This is going to give you the perfect spot for a refinery. For those of you that haven't had a base with a refinery, you do not understand what you are missing out on. They are an absolute godsend to have inside your base. Next, we're going to go ahead and close off this area and put some roofs on it. And you've got a bit of a choice to make here. You could just do the two half walls to make life easy, but I'm just going to put a temporary piece in like that. Close that off. And then we're actually going to just leave that there sitting in our walls, or you could take all of the wood out of your TC and it will break later. But we're going to close that off, and that gives us room to add a shelf. If you would rather more storage, square shelf is your way to go. If you would rather a little more mobility, a triangle shelf is much more handy. Either way, we're going to be slapping at least 2 boxes on top of that. And of course, putting our door back on. Gives us a nice little spot to put any wood or resources that you're going to have there, which is also really handy because this is our furnace room. Now, due to the way that some of these objects are interacting with each other, in order to actually do our furnace room, we first have to upgrade our bunker. Turning both of these to at least metal, I also recommend upgrading everything inside of your bunker to at least metal. But these parts are what's important. With that upgraded, you'll have enough room to actually place your furnaces down here, which also gives you a nice place to walk on and get in and out of your bunker easily. Of course, we can slap our doors back on and worry about expanding. For here, we are just going to mirror kind of like that, except we're going to do raised foundations the entire way through. And you can go ahead and upgrade those. And this part is going to depend on if you're a solo or a duo. If you are a solo, you can absolutely just close this off like so, and this is going to become a bedroom. If you are a duo, however, things do change a little bit. We now need to get 2 beds in here. We're going to be doing things just a little differently, adding ourselves a locker here and a locker here. Again, if you were a solo, you would just put the locker beside your bed and you'd be able to actually use that as proper honeycomb. Instead, we're going to put windows here, which can obviously be slapped in to add that extra security. But the main thing is we can now put 2 beds in this room. This is going to allow you to quickly respawn and make your way back outside of the base. Speaking of getting outside of the base, we can now actually expand our doorway out. For this part, I do actually recommend a low foundation, and then we're going to switch into a standard airlock. We're going to cap that off. And then coming here, we're actually going to add a half wall and cap that off as well. The reason we did that is because now we can add a triangle shelf right here, which can of course fit a couple drop boxes. I like having drop boxes really close to my front door, just so that if I do gather a bunch of loot, whether it be from farming or killing someone, I can quickly come inside my base, depot whatever I need to, and run right back out. These of course being placed here can also be replaced anytime somebody destroys them by simply placing a box to stand on here and of course replacing those. For that reason though, I do recommend using a double door here, not only for movement but also for ease of replacing these. I have had some people who have raided me be very angry and try to destroy my drop boxes, so it is just very handy to be able to replace them. Now you may have noticed I did not fill in my roof pieces completely, or my ceiling pieces rather, and I left this open. That's because if you were to expand upwards, this is where I would do it. So temporarily I would leave this as wood so that I could destroy this at any point later, but when I eventually need to, this would become my ladder hatch so that I could eventually go up to another floor. Now you will notice at some points through upgrading this base that you do run into some issues with placement, and that is simply because things are not as they should be. It does eventually let you place things, but you might have to fiddle around and try to connect to different sockets. Now speaking of the roof, we currently have one massive vulnerability in that even with this upgraded, somebody could easily splash and break into our roof. So of course, we're going to want to add a pancake layer. Now it's at this point, I really hope that nobody's skipping this part, because this pancake layer can 100% break your bunker. While a normal pancake layer would just see you filling every single slot, as is recommended, this one's a little different. In fact, if you were to fill in this spot right here attempting to finish your pancake, you would actually break the bunker. As you can see, the roof piece is now automatically connected to it, and from the inside, that means you're locked out. There would be no way to fix this later if you made this mistake, except to actually raid your own roof and destroy this piece. For that reason, when you're pancake layering the second floor, I recommend leaving that open and instead just covering it like so. Of course, that's pretty much it. While I do like filling out this area just for some extra honeycomb as well as symmetry, it also becomes a nice spot to make a shooting floor when you do decide to expand into that next section, because you can simply put some nice windows here, add a ramp, and whatever else you might need. That said, if you guys like this video, if you guys like this base design, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe for future content. At the same time, I've got 2 videos on the screen right now, both of which are unique small bases that can make your life so much easier. These will of course operate in addition to your main base, but having them will make your wipe better, I guarantee it. Until next time, have a good wipe, and peace out.